And welcome in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Wednesday to you now. Here we are, March 13th, and the madness is off and running. College basketball conference tournaments, slates of games. We've already got about a dozen or so games in the books here today. Much more still coming our way as we look to punch a few more tickets here for some teams to go dancing. In fact, in just a couple of weeks, Selection Sunday will be here before we know it. We still have a mid-major or two that we have to crown. And, of course, the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big East, the big boys, Big 12, all off and running here today. And we're going to get you caught up on all of it. I'm Joe Raineri. Certainly appreciate you hanging out with us here on the SportsGrid Network. All right, so we'll take a look here at a couple of games currently underway, and we'll start with the Big East as Xavier and Butler are about 60 seconds left in this one, and Xavier started to pull away here late in the second half. Looks like they're going to get it done over Butler. That was an 8-9 seed. 75-68 looks like it's going to get it done here. How about the Mountain West, where there's really no difference between the bottom third teams versus the top third teams in the conference? This is a conference that all year long has proven anybody can beat anybody. And right now, you've got Colorado State struggling against San Jose State right now with about 7 minutes to go here, 50-48. So that one could very well come down to the very last couple of possessions. We also have in the Atlantic 10, the Bonnies, St. Bonaventure up over LaSalle at the break, and McNeese, another one of these mid-majors here, the Southland Conference Tournament. McNeese has been the darlings of the mid-majors this year, 29-3 on the season. If they get their 30th win here against Nicholls State, which they are well on their way to, 48-32, well, they'll be going dancing, and that is a very dangerous team come tournament time here with former LSU coach at the helm trying to make a name for himself again. No shoe deals, I don't think, at McNeese State, so he should be okay. How about in the Pac-12 right now? UCLA off and running, but barely beating Oregon State. That's a 5-12 matchup there in the Pac-12. And, of course, we had some games earlier today in the Big 12. How about BYU handling business, taking care of UCF in that one here, 87-73. TCU just finished, in fact, its dismantling of Oklahoma. They ended up finishing 77-70 in that one there. So TCU looks like they'll advance. BYU also advances. And, of course, tonight, get ready for Kansas taking on Cincinnati, which is a game that most people seem to have already stuck a fork in Kansas because of the injuries that they're dealing with the big man, of course. Also McCullers Jr., we know, has been hurt, but don't know that I trust Cincinnati be laying 2.5 against a Kansas team that still has more talent, ultimately, than what Cincinnati does. That should be a very interesting game. You also have coming up a little bit later in the Big Ten tourney. How about Penn State taking on Michigan? Will Michigan ever win another game? The answer, probably not this one here tonight either. We'll just have to wait and see. Penn State, a 7.5-point favorite in that one. It has just been a rough go for Michigan. Make no mistake about it. Maybe some changes on the horizon. We're going to have to see here, but not good with good old Michigan this year. And Juwan Howard, we'll have to see if he still has a job when it's all said and done. Big 12 also coming up. How about Texas as a 7 seed in the tournament taking on K-State? That is going to be an interesting one, too. Jerome Tang, head coach of Kansas State, kind of feels like he's got just an edge over good old Coach Terry there for UT. You got to figure out which Kansas State team shows up. And it's been a hard sell for a lot of people here. The number is starting to come down. It was as high as 5.5. Looks like it's starting to come down here a little bit. That game coming up at 7 o'clock Eastern time, tip on that one. And then you do have a couple of other interesting games coming up. Bottom of this hour, Georgetown taking on Providence in the Big East as the couple of bottom feeders there. Providence, a 7 seed. Georgetown, a 10 seed. Providence laying nearly 9 points in this one against Georgetown here. This is going to be an interesting game. Don't know if I would trust Providence to be laying that many points. You also have in the Big Ten a cure for insomnia tonight. If you like or have trouble sleeping, turn on Maryland and Rutgers when you get a chance. There'll be more bricks thrown in this game than you can imagine, as Maryland is a 12 seed, Rutgers is a 13 seed. Neither offense can be trusted, and this total is sitting right around the 125 mark here with Maryland laying 4.5. It is going to be one crazy night of college basketball as all the big boys are off and running. And a big shout out to those of you, we've been screaming it here on the show, and hopefully some of you guys had an opportunity to hear it, because USC wins again, taking down Washington here about an hour ago in the Big 12 championship. Now, again, not a great season for Andy Enfield and the USC Trojans. However, like we've been saying, they are finally healthy with their leading guard, Boogie Ellis, back in action here. The pieces really are coming together here for USC. Now, you will recall over the weekend, final regular season matchup against Arizona. The game meant nothing to Arizona. And USC played like it was their final game of the season and beat Arizona. They took that same urgency into this game here as a 9 seed against Washington and ended up winning 80-74. Guess who USC gets to play next, thanks to them beating Washington? That's right. Arizona is coming up and waiting for its rematch here against the Trojans. So we are going to find out rather quickly this week if USC is a team of destiny. Is this really a team that we can count on? Or was all of that just a waste of time because Arizona is clearly the better team? Lot still to be decided coming up. And even in the ACC, we've got an update coming up. How about Boston College Clemson tonight? I've got a bit of information in this game you're going to want to hear about. 9:30 tip there. I wouldn't be running to the window to lay 7.5 with Clemson right away. We'll share that with you as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165, in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to -170 price, followed by SGA at +250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on this Wednesday. The madness is upon us here. Plenty of college basketball conference tournaments off and running here today. We got about a dozen or so games in the books here. We got a few more games getting ready to tip off. Plenty tonight, and we've got a lot to talk about, and nobody better to talk some hoops with than our good friend Mark Zinno on location. Hanging out with us here, happens to be in the beautiful New York City area there, where, in fact, plenty of Big East games will be blessing the court there in the next couple of days here, Zin. But I want to ask you here, before we dive into a couple of your bets, any major surprises thus far for you as you've watched the games unfold here the first couple of days?
I mean, look, USC, as you mentioned last segment, looks a little bit like a different team. And if you were smart and grabbed them to win the conference tournament on a flyer, I think about 45-1, you might be in good position. I mean, they got the matchup and the draw that they wanted, having to go back through Arizona, as you just said. So it's just kind of a look thing. I'm not surprised that they beat Washington. They just look like a much better team that we haven't seen all season.
Yeah, no, they're looking the part, and we're going to learn next game as they get to take on Arizona again here. But you're going to go to the Big 12 here tonight for your first play, and Heckle and Heckle and Jekyll here. Which one shows up and which one doesn't? Because K-State with Jerome Tang, I mean, it feels like if this game is close, then Texas is in trouble. But it feels like Texas is not going to allow them to get close. So how do you do this tonight?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're looking at a number that was at 4.5 this morning, went to 5, and then, sat at 5.5 for most of the day. I cut the game in half for the reasons you alluded to. Look, you can't deny Kansas State's defense and their ability to shut teams down. If you look at the first game between these two teams where Texas won it by 5 or 6, whatever it was, I mean, it was a slugfest. I think it was 62-56 was the final. It was an ugly, slow basketball game in Austin that played to K-State's strengths. Now, offensively, K-State's terrible. They don't shoot the ball well. They don't score a ton. And they're just not very efficient on the offensive end. In fact, they're one of the worst offenses in the Big 12. So I don't think this game takes on a fast-paced, get up and down kind of game because neither one of these teams play this game. But to your point, if Texas can't control the flow for the first 20 minutes and lead this thing by 3 stinking points, then I would immediately at halftime go hit a money line play on Kansas State to win the game outright. Because if that's like Texas is markedly better And Kansas State is really only good at home this year. And so if they're not playing in the octagon, regardless if it's neutral site, they're just not going to be good offensively. Texas is a much better shooting team. With all deference to K-State's defense, Texas should be able to make enough shots here to be up by 3 in the first half. But if they're not up by at least 3 or 4 here, then I would worry about how much they're going to be able to pull away from a Kansas State defense that has clearly shown that they can slow them down. So Texas has to start fast, has to make shots early, and have themselves a comfortable lead, because I could completely envision K-State crawling back in and shutting them down in the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you. Get out of that game, because nobody has played more closer games, overtime games, and it's one more than K-State. So the sooner the better there, Texas. Boat raise them and get out with that bet there. How about the Big Ten here tonight? Interesting game coming up here with good old Michigan, who, let's face it, they're probably not winning another game this year. It might be the end of the, Juwan Howard era, but they got to take on Penn State in this matchup here tonight. Are you buying Penn State to do enough and get it done past Michigan?
It's not even necessarily about Penn State. Joe, the only people in America who have quit more at their jobs than the Michigan Wolverines at basketball is the United States Customs and Border Patrol. Those are the only people who have quit their jobs more is the government securing the border. That's it. Everybody else is still showing up to work, trying to make a living, trying to earn it, except for Michigan basketball and the United States government when it comes to the border. So that's what this is about. This is a Michigan team here, Joe, that with the exception of keeping it close with Purdue within 8 points, has lost every game by double digits for the last 9 games. So I don't know at what point in time they're going to show up and start saying, "Hey, we have some pride, we have some respect. We're Michigan. We're gonna." No, they're not. Like they just have stopped playing basketball at any high level here. Penn State isn't exactly a juggernaut, but they're good enough on the defensive end, and they have enough on offense. And there's literally no reason for Michigan to want it. They just want a bullet in the back of their head and end this thing. Like that's really what it boils down to. This is about Michigan having quit. And this was the same Michigan team that lost by 8 points to Penn State when they were a 3-point favorite earlier in the year. So, I mean, the number feels right to me, but Penn State should not have a problem here. It's, again, one of these, if Penn State isn't leading at halftime, if they don't have a 6 or 7 point lead at halftime, I'm going to be very, very worried, because that's all Penn State needs to do is get out to a lead and then just kind of step on their throats early in the second half, and everybody will quit and go home. They'll do the American thing and say, "Hey, we can't win. I may as well quit."
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason why I took the under in this game, because they have been playing some fantastic defense, Penn State as well there. So Coach Shrewsbury's got these guys playing, and they shouldn't have any problem beating Michigan, especially in the second half, because we all know how well Michigan is in the second half of games. They are already 1 foot out the door. So should be an easy one there for Penn State. I am with you. The NBA games tonight. What a packed house we've got tonight. Some intriguing matchups. Let's start with one of the late games here. The Lakers taking on the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento on the second of a back-to-back. We saw them last night handle business against Milwaukee. They have handled business against the Lakers. I think they're 6-1 against them in the last 7. But do you trust Sacramento to light the beam tonight, or do you think the Lakers get it done?
Well, I lost the bet in the Sacramento game last night with Milwaukee. I took the over. Sacramento did their part. I just didn't know that all of a sudden the defense that gives up 120 points a game was going to keep Milwaukee to 94. So the thing is this. Sacramento on the front half of back-to-backs prior to last night was 10-2 straight up. Right? They're now 11-2 straight up and against the number. On the second half of back-to-backs, they're 3-8 against the number. And they're favored here. You'd like to think that the LA Lakers are not going to want to get swept by the Sacramento Queens, Shaq would say back in the day. So I would expect them here to go out and get a win. I'm playing more of the back-to-back angle here for Sacramento. Even at home, I think it's worth it. So I'm going to back LeBron and Lakers. And that's the hard part about playing the Lakers, right? I haven't officially locked in yet. I got to make sure everybody's playing. Because if LeBron wants a night off or AD wants a night off, I got to go running for the hills and say I ain't dealing with this. So, but I think the Lakers are the right side. They get it done tonight.
Yeah, Lakers with rest in a game which they want to try to avoid the play-in as best as possible, right? So, they got to handle their business here tonight, even though it's on the road. They got the rest, and they should be able to get it done. I know a lot of people are very excited about one dog on the card. I want to see if you agree with them. Where do you stand on the Bulls tonight, taking on the Pacers in Indiana? Pacers, of course, huge win last night against OKC.
Yeah.
Are you buying them here tonight? Oh, no.
Joe,
oh, no.
I think third time's a charm here for me, hopefully, because I bet against the Pacers when they were in Orlando. I bet against the Pacers when they were in Oklahoma City. And I'm going to go hit myself in the head with a baseball bat and do it again. I mean, this number feels way too short for a team that just won both those games convincingly against better teams. And I mean, it's the Bulls, and it's really yucky and ugly to get behind. But you know how much I get into these ugly games and kind of actually feel pretty good about them. So reluctantly, I'm not going to watch. I'm just going to put the money down, walk away, and not think about it until about 10 o'clock at night and see what the score is, and hopefully it works out in my favor.
Listen, you're an NYC. You got plenty of things to watch tonight. Don't make this one of them. Mark Zinno, we certainly appreciate the time. Enjoy your stay in New York City. Cash a few tickets and Game Time Decisions. We'll be back after this here on the Grid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday now, March 13th. I'm Joe Raineri, joined by our good friend, Joe Madden. We're going to keep this very simple. You say Joe and you cover the whole room. And Joe Madden, ready to roll here. We were just talking about a couple of crazy games in the NHL last night. And who knows what tonight has to offer. But chances are it's going to be a little bit crazy. And we'll start with St. Louis. How about St. Louis taking on the Kings in this one? I think St. Louis is running out of real estate here. Like, if you're going to make a run at this, put it together here, St. Louis. They're at a pretty decent plus price here tonight. What are you looking at?
They are at a nice plus price here at home, but the problem with me with St. Louis is, yes, they're coming off a nice win versus the Boston Bruins, but you look at them in their last 11 games prior. They went 3-7-1 in those 11 games. I can't really trust them here versus the LA Kings, especially LA Kings team that is so strong at locking down on the defensive side of the puck. They're not really a team that go out there to dominate and get those goals to start the game, but they absolutely could on Jordan Binnington, and Jordan Binnington has been playing well, so I have to give him his dues here, but I do think the Kings are the stronger team. I'm a little worried, though, because this team, the St. Louis Blues, is playing with a lot of pride, especially coming off that win versus Boston, so they will have confidence. I'm going to look at that first period. I expect that first period to be highly defensive, Joe. I'm going to take the first period under 1.5. That's coming in at minus 118. I expect both teams to lock down on the defensive side, not looking to make the mistakes out there. I also think if you're willing to sweat out the no goal in the first 10 minutes, it's something that could cash in this one. That's coming in at plus 106 if you want to sweat that one out. But I got a couple others that I'm sweating out in this one where I'm going to stay off it for this game, but I could possibly see it hitting.
All right, so let's talk about Winnipeg here. You and I talked last week after the trade deadline, and we talked winners and losers. One of the winners for you was Winnipeg. You thought they made the right moves. They have the pieces to make some noise this year. They got to take on Nashville here. Do you like them enough to be able to back them in this spot?
You know what? I love what we're going to see out of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I can already foresee it. Tyler Toffoli is going to be so great in this game. We didn't see him get on the scoreboard in the last one, and I'm expecting a lot out of him tonight. So you look at Tyler Toffoli, you can take him for 2+ points, Joe, and it's too good to say no to. It's coming in at 490. So he's playing on that top line with Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. So you could just see him get those 2 assists. I expect him to be able to get on the scoreboard as well with that goal. Now, I'm looking at this game to be a really strong offensive game out of both of these teams. I'm going to take the over in this one, and I know it goes against everything. The Winnipeg Jets at home with Connor Hellebuck in net. Normally, that's an automatic under on that total, but you look at the Nashville Predators, this team has been playing completely hot. And while they lost that last game to the Minnesota Wild in OT, you look at them in their games prior, and they've been just firing out there. They've been able to light the lamp continuously in these games. So I don't see this one staying under the total. And these two teams have met already this season. They have split. And the Predators are yet to see Connor Hellebuck. They've only seen Boussoit in those first 2 meetings. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can score on him, but I do think they can. So give me the over 5.5. Give me Tyler Toffoli for a big night for those 2+ points of plus 490.
Love it. All right, so let me ask you about Edmonton back home here. And they are holding, right? They're holding strong here. I think they have, a 3 or a 4 point lead over the Kings and Vegas for that second spot there in the Pacific. 6-1-1 in their last 8 games. Hell of a road trip for them. Now, having said all that, now they go back home, got to take on Washington. Does it continue this machine? Does it keep rolling?
It can, and I definitely think they have every possibility of getting this win. I'm just going to look at that first period. You look at the Edmonton Oilers, and they play such a different style than the LA Kings. I talked about the Kings, how they like to come out and play that strong defensive and just wait for their opponent to really take those chances. Edmonton's not that kind of style of team. Edmonton comes out so strong out of the gate. They look to move down the ice fast and surprise their opponent with their speed, with their skill to move that puck. And I do think we'll see Edmonton do that in this game. So I'm looking at Edmonton in the first period. You can take them on that puck line. The puck line laying a half a goal is coming in at plus 110. If you want a little bit of a safer bet, you could look at them coming in to score the first goal in the first period. That's minus 125, but I don't think you have to worry here. The Washington Capitals, while I do think can get on the scoreboard, because I'm still not completely faithful in Skinner, aren't a team that really come out that strong offensively. That being said, they have been playing well as of late, and they're still playing for something in this one. You got Ovechkin playing lights out right now, in my opinion, for what we've seen. He's had highs and lows this season. He's on a high. It's really interesting, Joe, if you look at the difference between Ovechkin for 2+ points and Connor McDavid for 2+ points. Connor McDavid is minus 130. You're getting Ovechkin at plus 310 for 2+ points. So the value is there playing anything on Washington, but I think Edmonton straight out of the gate, it's that fast skating, firing that puck, finding the back of the net right away in this one. So that's coming in on the puck line at plus 110.
Love it. All right, plus money here. Let's go one more game here. And boy, oh boy, Colorado, what they did to your Calgary Flames was borderline illegal last night. It was just not pretty. But they have been, I mean, you know, this is exactly what we expected from the Avalanche, right? They've won 4 straight, 6 of their last 7. It is the second of a back-to-back. They're taking on Vancouver, who's been pretty good, but they just lost Demko. So what do we, it feels just like an over. Just take the over, expect goals, and be happy with it. Is that how you're approaching, or are you going side?
No, absolutely. I think this one screams over without Demko and Casey DeSmith in. I know he came in for relief of Demko in the last game and he saved all 10 shots on him. But Demko's not a goaltender that we've had a lot of faith in over the season, even though his numbers are looking pretty strong. And he's been thrown into some bad situations in games. So it's really inflated his numbers here. I don't think he's as bad as his numbers. But I still look at the Colorado Avalanche. This team has so much firepower with Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen, and the list just goes on for this team. And I do think they'll be able to catch him. And I think you even look at players like Cale Makar, an offensive defenseman that is able to fire from that blue line to get past and find the back of his net. So I have to take this one over. We also look at the Avs on the second night of the back-to-back. They trend highly to that over. And then you look at Vancouver. Vancouver knows how to score. They have the playmakers as well. Elias Pettersson, Elias Lindholm, Quinn Hughes even, they're offensive defensemen. You look at these playmakers, and I do think this total is just too low. I think this is 4-3. I think it's a 4-3 game that has every possibility of happening in overtime because these teams are going to play each other so tight here. And now when you look at the Colorado Avalanche, they're third in the Central. They're trailing first place of the Dallas Stars in the Central only by 2 points. So they're absolutely coming to try to get this win. Now, this is the second night of the back-to-back, and like you said, they just destroyed Calgary last night. It wasn't even fair. You're dead on the money with that one. Calgary trying to get that third goal, and it cost me because I had Calgary over the 2.5 last night, but they played a fantastic game, and I expect them to come out and play a really strong game in this one. Now, you can look at that first period over 1.5. I love it. It's at minus 142. And I also like that goal in the first 5 minutes. I think someone comes out and surprises in this one. The goal in the first 5 minutes, Joe, and I put a half a unit on the over 1.5 because it's minus 142, and I put the other half unit on the goal in the first 5 minutes because it's plus 168. So I wanted some plus money, getting a little greedy there, but I do think one of these teams can come out and score. I expect it to be Colorado, with Casey DeSmith being kind of shaky in those first couple minutes of the game.
I don't know what it is, but I would imagine here, Joe, that, and I'm shocked because I thought for sure we'd get this, and I think it has every time we talk Colorado. McKinnon, goal, anytime goal, 1+ goal. I mean, it's got to be so chalky, it's disgusting. But what difference does it make as long as he's doing it? 114 or 13 points, I think, in the NHL this year, leading it. Almost feel like you got to go with him, no?
Yeah, you got to look at him. He's coming in at plus 110, so there is a little bit of plus money on Nathan
Oh,
McKinnon for the anytime goal.
whew.
So it's good. And again, it's on Casey DeSmith. So how can you not look at him with a high scoring game as well? You could look at him for a couple of points in this one. I wouldn't look at any power play points because the kills are strong on both of these teams. But 2+ points is plus 108. So you're getting more value on that anytime goal than you are on the 2+ points. If you want to take him up to 3+ points, we know it's quite possible. That's where the value comes in at plus 330. So I could see it. He's going against, a B-level goaltender. I hate to call Casey DeSmith a B-level goaltender, but he really is, in my opinion. I just haven't seen enough out of him where I think he's really going to shut down Nathan McKinnon. We're going to get a hat trick tonight, Joe? That's what I want. I want a hat trick tonight.
Oh,
I gotta
see,
bet
now
that
you're
now
now
instead
we're
of-
going to the alternate lines. Now we're talking here. Give me McKinnon with a hat trick. That's got to be a pretty good price, too. But when you got Colorado, who's averaging just about 5 goals a game here over this stretch, McKinnon leading the NHL in scoring, it just feels like we should go over. Colorado yesterday, I was kind of shocked against Calgary. Their regulation bet was about even, and I couldn't believe it because I'm saying, are we really thinking Calgary's going to take them to overtime? Pretty good prices available there tonight. Plus money across the board. Make sure McKinnon is somewhere in there because when he scores the hat trick, we'll come back tomorrow and be like, see, Joe, we told you exactly what was going to happen here. Appreciate it, Joe Madden. Cash those tickets and Game Time Decisions. We'll be back right after this.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can always like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Certainly appreciate you hanging with us here as we've got madness tonight here. College hoops all over the place here. Games going on right now. We've had games going on earlier today that have already finished. We've seen a lot of underdogs cashing tickets here early, especially some of the lower seeds in college basketball. We'll see if that trend continues here tonight in college hoops. They call it madness for a reason here, and there's much more to get to coming up with college basketball and conference tournaments, but we're going to switch our focus over to the NBA here tonight as we've got a great slate of games across the board. It's going to open up with a couple at 7 o'clock featuring everybody's team that they love to hate, although I don't know why, given the fact that they have been absolute money over the last 26, 27 games. And that, of course, is the Detroit Pistons. No, I am not crazy. I am telling you that Detroit has been an absolute moneymaker, 18-8 against the number in their last 26 games. You got a healthy Cade Cunningham, who is quietly averaging about 22 points, 8 assists, and shooting about 47% from the floor in his last 18 games. He is quietly, along with Duran and the other young pieces that they have, they're actually finally starting to figure out how to win in the NBA. On the other side, you've got Toronto, who can't stay healthy. This team is a hot mess. Butcher, RJ Barrett, they've got Jakob there in the middle, who is out. Quigley and Gary Trent Jr. are still questionable to play. I mean, this team is so banged up right now. Plus, if Jakob doesn't go here tonight, they have no real big man, not to mention that Detroit is one of the top 5 rebounding teams in the NBA right now, especially over that run of 26 games that we were just telling you about. They have been phenomenal on the boards, not just defensively, but offensively, which means they are giving themselves a whole lot of second chance points. In fact, in the last 26 games, the Pistons have generated the 5th most points and the 6th most putback plays in games because of their rebounding. So they no Scotty Barnes, obviously we know that. No Jakob. They are not going to be able to keep Detroit off the boards, which means, as crazy as it sounds, Detroit has got some value hovering around that 3.5 number here as far as I'm concerned. Also not a bad look to the over at 233 right now. And Cade Cunningham, like I said, has been an absolute monster. Don't sleep on Detroit because it's Detroit. That's too many injuries in my book for the Toronto Raptors to go on the road and just wipe the floor with the Detroit Pistons. I can say the same thing with your other 7 o'clock Eastern time tip. How about Brooklyn taking on the Orlando Magic? And what a game. Oh, what a streak it has been for Orlando here. This is a team that has a ton of young talent here. Hopefully they can stay healthy enough to make this thing a run come playoff time. But there is no doubt the Magic, as far as I'm concerned, have arrived. And I don't know anybody who's going to be looking forward to playing them in the playoffs. Having said that, 6.5, 7 points in this game is absolutely absurd. We talked about injuries with Toronto. Well, Brooklyn has been going through it over the last couple of weeks since the All-Star break. They have been riddled with injuries. But guess what? they're finally not hurt. The team is finally healthy. Cameron Johnson expected to return from a 3-game absent here tonight. Cam Thomas returned a couple of days ago. What did he do? Well, he dropped 60 points on 48% here in his last couple of games. He is an absolute monster. And the other great part about this is style makes fights in these. Brooklyn loves to shoot the 3. They have never met a 3 they didn't like to take, which is a problem for the Magic because as good as they are defensively, well, they protect those mid-range jumpers. They protect the paint like nobody's business. The problem is Brooklyn is not going to try to do that. Brooklyn is going to make a whole lot of threes, and they are going to chuck up a whole lot of threes, not something Orlando necessarily defends very well. So I do think there's a couple of ways to approach this game tonight. I do like the Brooklyn with the points in this one, but I also think the total, which is, by the way, starting to creep up a little bit, was as low as 204.5, starting to see 205.5 popping up. And I agree with it because if Brooklyn covers, it's going to be because Brooklyn is hitting threes. And if they're hitting threes, then I have no doubt that this thing is flying over the total tonight when it's all said and done. Take a look at that one there. Brooklyn taking on Orlando, and that is coming up at the top of the hour. And how about them, Miami Heat at home here, looking to take on the Denver Nuggets here. Remember, now, sooner or later, Miami's going to figure out how to beat the Denver, right? I mean, it can't possibly be that, well, all right, maybe it can. Listen, Miami, still no Tyler Hero, still no Kevin Love, and those two pieces are going to be important, not just in a game like tonight, but it's certainly going to be important down the stretch here because they need that ability to hit those outside shots. And Kevin Love has been absolutely great for the Miami Heat. Again, when available, gives them a little size, gives them the ability to be able to stretch, and of course can hit the threes. There's going to be some defense in this game here tonight. The line, as you guys saw on the screen there, is right around 3.5. It was 4.5 most of the day. We're starting to see 3.5. So the Miami money is starting to roll in. The total is actually, and I agree with it, the total is starting to creep up from 215 to 217 here. And why is that? Well, Miami has been phenomenal defensively. We know this. But in these games against Denver, what we have also known is the ability of Denver to play from in front. And if that is the case against Miami, Miami is going to have to go maybe a little bit more up-tempo in this one to keep the scoring where it needs to be. This is a great opportunity for the Miami Heat to finally get one again against this Denver team who is doing everything in their power to solidify that number 1 seed in the West. They are an absolute beast, but they are going to have to play tonight, and they're going to have to handle Jokic. They appear to be set on saying, you know what, Jokic, get yours. You're good to go. Just nobody else. Murray's not going to beat us, right? We're not going to let, Gordon beat us. So if that's going to be the plan again, Jimmy Butler's going to have to be big here tonight. Any which way you cut it, the money is coming in and the points for Miami, the total is creeping up, and I think that is not a bad way to look at this game, looking at the over. We also have, how about the Indiana Pacers last night? Did anybody have the Pacers knocking down OKC in unbelievable fashion? Well, now they're back home, second of the back-to-back here, got to take on the Chicago Bulls, who have been absolutely inconsistent for as long as we know. So the question is, do we trust the Chicago Bulls, who have the rest advantage here? Do we trust them to go on a road here and keep this thing close against the Pacers, who now have had a couple of really good games back-to-back? It had not been good for the Indiana Pacers since the All-Star break. Been a little sluggish. Halliburton kind of been in a little bit of a scoring funk, has not been able to really get it going. Well, guess what? they're going to get it going here tonight against Chicago. And the only question I have when it comes to the Chicago Bulls is, will they get buried right off the bat? Because that's what the Pacers sometimes love to do. I don't think they're going to be able to do that here tonight. I do think the Bulls are going to have an opportunity here to give Indiana all sorts of fits. I wouldn't mind taking the points here. As much as I love Indiana, and I do, Indiana has not been great on the second of back-to-backs here. Not to mention, the Chicago Bulls need all the wins they can get, and this is a very winnable game for them here, but they're going to have to show up and handle it tonight. And that is going to be 7:30 Eastern time. And then a lot of eyes are going to be in the 8:30 time slot as we're going to take a look at a Steph Curry-less Golden State Warriors team taking on the Dallas Mavericks here. Now, Dallas, when you look at what they have done over the last couple of games, I mean, my goodness, they are just dropping. They're dropping dimes on everybody here. I mean, Doncic and Kyrie, finally healthy on the floor, are a very, very dangerous combination. Golden State still trying to figure it out and put it together without Steph Curry, and they're not going to have Steph Curry here, obviously, for at least a little while longer. But the question is, Dallas dropped 100, and if I'm not mistaken, that was 127 against the Bulls. Then in Detroit, it was 142. So they are more than capable of scoring a ton of points against the Golden State Warriors team, which has got to go smaller and not going to have a great answer for Doncic here, because don't forget, he has pretty much owned the Golden State Warriors here as of late. In fact, I believe the last 3 times that Doncic has faced them, he's dropped at least 30 or more points against them. I think he's going to get his again tonight. Instead of a side, I looked at the Dallas Mavericks team total at home. I know that Kyrie, his total should also be actually bettable here tonight in this game. The total has crashed. It went from 237.5 overnight to 233. The side, though, is starting to creep up. 6.5 is an open. I'm starting to see 7.5s and even 8s beginning to pop up on the board. And I just want to make sure that we don't have any. Well, Draymond Green has now showed up as questionable on the injury report, which would explain the sudden push of Dallas Mavericks money here. But any which way you cut it, I think the over is not a bad look here. And I don't think the Dallas Mavericks team total is a bad look either, because especially if Draymond's not going, this could be one of those scheduled losses for the Golden State Warriors here tonight. I do think the Dallas Mavericks will have their way on their home court, but keep an eye on that injury report. No Steph Curry, we know for sure. Now Draymond is a big question mark, and the money is starting to come in here on the Dallas Mavericks. We also have the Lakers a little bit later coming up against the Sacramento Kings. Atlanta, Portland for late night. We have got you covered. Come back and join us here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can always like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we close out this first hour. Get ready for the opening tip here in the NBA. A couple of games just a few moments away. We told you about Toronto and Detroit as well as Brooklyn and Orlando, but we do have a same-game parlay coming up, and who better than our good friend Davis Maddock to lay one out here for us tonight. And Davis, what do you got for us?
All right, guys, we are back for another same-game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Pretty simple one tonight. We've got an NBA Finals rematch with the Denver Nuggets traveling to play at the Miami Heat, and we are honestly going to keep it super simple. We are taking the best team in the NBA, the Denver Nuggets, minus 3.5 points against the Miami Heat team that is getting healthy, but still is not as good as the Denver Nuggets. We are also going to take the over on 215.5. The Nuggets offense is their strong suit, although they are a top 10 NBA defense. I think the way that they win most of these games is by just having the best offensive possessions possible because of how good Nikola Jokic is. Our spicy one is we are actually going to take Jokic to score 30 or more points in this game. That is at plus odds inside the same game booklet on FanDuel. And this 3-leg same game parlay is going to give us plus 592 odds. Nuggets minus 3.5, over 215.5, and Nikola Jokic to score 30 or more points in this game. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, good stuff there. Appreciate that, Davis, as we get ready for a huge night across the board in the NBA. And, of course, it'll culminate with a little late night here action as the desperate Los Angeles Lakers, if we can say this, want to do anything but land in that play-in game. They got to take on the Sacramento Kings on the road. They're rested. Do they have enough in the tank to be able to get it done? Sacramento on the second of a back-to-back. The market seems to think they do, as this is hovering around Lakers minus 2.5. We'll have more on this game And another hour of Game Time Decisions coming your way next here on the Grid. All right, welcome back in, off and running another hour here of Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Certainly appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us as the madness is officially begun for March and college basketball. And we've got plenty of it. Conference tournaments underway here. 10 conferences, I believe, in action here today. We'll have more tomorrow. And, of course, all your big boys are in action here as we've got the ACC, the Big 12, the Big East, Mountain West, all with games here tonight as some of these lower seeds look to advance and give themselves a chance to punch a ticket for March Madness here. Now, we do have a couple of games underway right now, and it does look as if in the Atlantic 10, the Bonnies, St. Bonaventure, looks like they might very well hold on, although they're only up 74-72 right now, with about 10 seconds left to go in that one. This is why they call it madness. McNeese State rolling Nicholls State, and UCLA, remember them? Mick Cronin and company on top of Oregon State right now as they are about halfway through the second half. It is a 40-27 game there. We are getting ready for a big slate of games coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Games like Texas getting ready to take on Kansas State in the Big 12. Can Texas erase what was a pretty disappointing season by Texas standards? 20-11 on the season. They are a number 7 seed here in the Big 12, and they get to take on Kansas State, who, quite honestly, the wheels began falling off even before the season started when their best player was in a bar fight before the first game, ended up getting suspended, then transferred to Memphis, and it has been just a absolute crazy season since then. But they do have an opportunity here to be able to take down Texas and advance. And we all know they call it madness for a reason. And that could very well be the start of craziness. And the game that is going to interest me here tonight is going to be the other Kansas team that's coming up when University of Kansas gets ready to take on Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati, who was a double-digit favorite yesterday over West Virginia, almost lost. It took everything they had in order to be able to win that game yesterday to get to this point and take on a KU team that, let's face it here, they've got injuries all over the place. Hunter Dickinson out for this game. McCullers Jr., their leading scorer, they're leading everything, really. He, too, with injury concerns here in Cincinnati, looking to take advantage of the lack of depth that Kansas has here. But they come in as the 11th seed. And what scares me is the entire market seems to be just piling in on bets, which worries me a little bit because it's still Kansas. It's still Bill Self. He still has guys on this team that can absolutely open. They know, as well as everyone else, that nobody is picking them because of those 2 injuries right there. Kevin McCullers Jr. Had already missed 5 full games, part of a whole bunch of others with that bone bruise on his left knee. And we all know that Kansas was a totally different team with him on the court versus him off the court. It was a 76-46 beatdown by Houston last week, guys, on Saturday, that we saw Hunter Dickinson dislocate his right shoulder while going for a rebound. And that, too, is a huge loss. But that might be a huge loss when you're trying to beat Baylor. I don't know that it's a huge loss here when you're trying to beat Cincinnati, who is in its first season in the Big 12, who, like I said, was a double-digit favorite yesterday against lowly West Virginia, and they were losing most of that game. So they had to empty the tanks in order to be able to win that game just to get to this opportunity to play the Jayhawks here. Now, Jayhawks have lost 3 of their last 4. 4 players on this starting lineup here tonight have had, I believe, at least 16 starts. So there's going to have to be the experience that they do have are going to play a lot of minutes in this game. But I'll be if I don't think Kansas has at least enough talent on this team to be able to win this game, experience, coaching edge, you name it here. I think it would be very foolish if we all of a sudden just stuck a fork in Kansas and thought, yes, Cincinnati is going to run them over here tonight, with Cincinnati now laying 3, even start 3.5. And I had mentioned earlier, there is another game that I had circled on my card here, and it's coming up 9:30 Eastern with Boston College taking on Clemson in the ACC tournament. This will be the late game for the ACC tournament. So I watched this Boston College team play Miami yesterday. And, folks, I am telling you, if you get a chance to watch this game, this 7-footer Quentin Post for BC is a absolute monster. This kid is a beast, and this kid is, by the way, going to be playing in the association in the near future here. He is a wrecking machine, and he's a mismatch nightmare for teams. He completely owned O'Meara and Miami in that game yesterday, but not just yesterday. He also owned and handled them, of course, during the regular season when they played. Now, they did play Clemson once this year, and Clemson ended up beating them. But the thing to remember here is Quentin Post did not play in that game against Clemson. He was, there was an illness. I think he was sick just before the game, so he didn't play. And yet, Boston College still was able to score 78 points in that game. They lost 89-78. P.J. Hall of Clemson was a monster in that game, had 26 on 10 of 18. He was 6 of 6 at the rim. And listen, P.J. Hall's the best player on Clemson. But my goodness, this 7-footer Quentin Post is a different animal here. I don't think P.J. Hall is going to have his way. And by the way, if you want to give me 7.5 points with a Boston College team that will have the best player on the court here tonight, I got no problem taking it. But if you're looking at the past score and go, my goodness, Clemson ran them over last time they played. Yeah, well, just keep in mind that Quentin Post was not in that game. He will be in this game here tonight. And Boston College will absolutely have my money and a ticket here, taking those points and maybe even a little sprinkle on the money line. So plenty of madness in college hoops, plenty of NBA, some NHL. We're just getting started. Come back and join us. Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here at a minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri here, and we've got plenty of action here, NBA as well as college hoops. We got some NHL games, and of course, we've got spring training, which means opening day, actually just a couple of weeks away. Hard to believe that that's the point of the year we are at, but it is coming, and so is our good friend here, George Kurtz, who's been keeping an eye as a Yankee fan on the headlines here each and every day because, George, it went from bad to worse news for the Yankees here as it appears Garrett Cole will, in all likelihood, they say out for months. When you give me the quote-unquote, when you do this, months, yeah, we'll see in 2025 if we're lucky. You can't replace him. I don't know that they're holding out hope, but not great news for the Yankees, basically. But it's not like they can just pull the plug on the season because Garrett Cole won't be there. Am I right?
Well, the problem is, first of all, you can make the argument that Cole was the one person the Yankees could not afford to lose. And I mean that even over Judge, right? You had Soto there, you have an excess of outfielders there. You could survive Judge for a certain amount of time, which, by the way, they're probably going to have to do it at some point this season also, right? So he's already banged up. But you cannot replace Cole. They already needed another pitcher, right? Even with Cole healthy, they needed another pitcher, some depth there. And now, I mean, listen, what's the best case scenario here? I guess May. That's if everything goes perfectly. You get Cole back in May. And listen, I don't think we'll see Cole until June, maybe the All-Star break. That would be my guess, is when he would return for the Yankees here. Can they still survive until that point? Sure. 7 teams make the playoffs here. You won't win the division. I don't see that happening. But I didn't think the Yankees were going to win the division anyway. So I was, wasn't on board with that as it is. But losing Cole is a big blow. We'll find out more, I guess, over the weekend. He's going to go see Dr. Neil Trash on Friday, and I guess we'll get a more definitive diagnosis. If you want to believe the Yankees and the reports, there's no tear in the elbow, right? Okay, great. But we know the Yankees have a tendency to lie to us anyway, so I don't think I'll believe anything until we hear a more definitive diagnosis on Garrett Cole.
Yeah. He is. We're getting breaking news here. I don't know if we have that soundbite there, but breaking news here, George. We're being told that the Yankees were looking with this news coming out at Dylan Cease, right? Chicago White Sox starting pitcher, Cy Young, candidate there, winner, I believe, a couple of years ago. Well, as it turns out, yeah, he won't be going to the Yankees. He's going to the Padres, is what it sounds like here. Looks like he just signed on with the Padres here. So his era with the White Sox looks to be over. He looks to be handing out to the Padres, who in many aspects are sort of rebuilding out there as well. So the Yankees, if they thought, and a lot of rumors about Cease, that maybe he was on the radar, well, that radar is closed. He's now a Padre here. Would he have helped one way or the other, Kurtz?
I think he'll help any team. A little surprised that San Diego is that team. If you would have asked me 5 minutes ago where I thought Cease was going, it wouldn't have been the Yankees. I thought it was Texas. Texas needs a starting pitcher badly. Because Texas has to survive the first half of the season without DeGrom, without Scherzer, with the makeshift pitching staff. We don't know what we're going to get from Corey Seager either, right? He's banged up. So we're worried about him. Padres. Now, I'm looking here. Jeff Hassan's doing reporting it right now, so we know it's legit. But it doesn't say who San Diego gave up. I'm very curious to see who they gave up here. What are the Padres hoping for here? Joe, they're not really in contention to catch the Dodgers. Maybe you can play a little bit with with Arizona. You traded Juan Soto away, for a whole bunch of Yankee depth pitching products, right? King, Brito, and so on there. What are we hoping for here? And what else did you trade away as far as, your top hitters? What went bye-bye here? So I'm very curious to see the return for the Chicago White Sox, who, by the way, are going to be an awful team this year. And I mean god-awful. I hope you got there under.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dave, you got Cease now because they lost Snell. They lost Josh Hader, right? So they're stuck with, Musgrove, Yu Darvish, now Dylan Cease. They had, they got Michael King, I think, right, from the Yankees out there, Brito. So it's not terrible. I mean, but of course, Juan Soto is no longer with them as well. So, hey, listen, it's the Dodgers and everybody else anyway, but they still have some bats and they still have an ability, I think, to hit the ball. And I think they just love the idea of sticking it to the Yankees and just being able to be like, oh, you want him? Yeah, no, that's not going to happen here. So we are just a couple of weeks away from opening day, and it's getting interesting already, and we haven't had the first game here. Interesting night on the ice here as well, Kurt. It's only 4 games, but I like a couple of spots here. What was the one game that stuck out to you the most here tonight?
I mean, as far as you're a fan, the game of the night is Colorado-Vancouver, right? The late game there. Colorado playing on the second half, back-to-back nights. Big game because, remember, Vancouver, they lost Thatcher Demko. All right, a guy who was in the running for the Vezina trophy here. I don't think he was going to win it. I think Hellebuck was going to win it. But Thatcher Demko was in the running here. Now he's out minimum 2 to 3 weeks here, probably closer to a month, which, by the way, may not be the worst news for the Canucks to get arrested healthy, number one goalie into the playoffs. So as long as he comes back, play 3 or 4 games left in the regular season, I don't think it's an awful thing for the Canucks here. But that's the game of the night to see that here. But the game that interests me as a bettor, now you go back to Edmonton. Right? I don't think there's any great betting game here tonight, but a bet that I've made, there's 2 bets that I've loved that would really have carried me for probably most of the winter here. The Toronto Maple Leafs and betting them to win and Austin Matthews to score a goal when they were hot. And the same thing with the Edmonton Oilers, betting them to win and Zach Hyman to score an anytime goal here, which is what I have going in this game. I have very little doubt they'll beat the Capitals. It's just picking the right goal scorer. We know McDavid's not scoring, right? He's trying to get 100 assists or whatever it is. Draisaitl will be your other choice. We don't get quite as good a price with him. Give me Zach Hyman to score a goal and the Edmonton Oilers to beat the Washington Capitals.
You know, we were talking earlier with Joe Madden swung by last hour, and I'm like, how in the world you got Colorado, Vancouver, right? You got a backup goalie now in net for Vancouver. You have Colorado, who's averaging 5 goals a game. We think the over is the play for sure, but how are we not betting McKinnon with an anytime goal at plus money? I can't even believe it's plus money. But how are we not? I mean, that should just be rinse and repeat, should it not, George?
Well, the one thing about the Avalanche, they are a different team on the road than they are at home. All right, they're not quite they're a monster at home. On the road, you know, they haven't played so well. They're playing better on the road of late. Once again, they're getting ready for the playoffs. You want to bet McKinnon? No one's going to knock you there. Who would? McKinnon's he might be your MVP. Right? And I think right now, as of March 13th, he's your leader for MVP. We'll see how it works out. Kucherov was certainly there. If McDavid does get 100 assists, if he does catch McKinnon for the points lead, well, then we'll have a different conversation in 5-6 weeks here. But yeah, McKinnon anytime goal, the over. I have a small play on it as well. You are paying for it. Minus 115, 6.5 there. I don't trust, Casey DeSmith. I think he's a good backup. We'll see how he does as a starter. I think this is his first game as technically the starting goaltender until Thatcher Demko returns. I think he'll be fine tonight, but I do wonder if he comes down, Joe, as the games accumulate over the next couple of weeks.
Oh, all right. Interesting there. I know Bennington in goal for St. Louis here and the Kings. But do you think St. Louis has a shot if they can put it together here down the stretch?
Not for the playoffs, no. But in this game, sure. You don't know what you're going to get from the Kings. You don't know what you get from the Blues either, by the way.
That's the problem.
I don't know which team's going to show up with these two teams here.
Yep.
I have a tough time betting on the Kings and that goaltender, right? Rittich, I don't hear it. Rittich, Talbot, you just don't know how they're going to play. They did shut out the Islanders the other night to stop that 6-game winning streak here. I'm not laying 150. Once again, I'll take the dog here. Give me one plus 125. I'll make Cam happy.
And the Bruins weren't happy, that's for sure there. George Kurtz, appreciate it. Warm up the arm. The Yankees are calling for you. Game Time Decisions return.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here at a minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to like 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network, as we've got plenty going on this Wednesday here. A lot of basketball, NBA underway here, and a big slate of games, 2 games already happening there. Let us not forget, of course, madness is upon us here with college basketball conference championships. The tournaments are on the go here. We'll have updates on all of that, but let us not forget, we have the other major tournament nobody talks about on the PGA Tour. It is the Players' Championship, and we've got our own champion here. Brady Cannon in the house, ready to drop some knowledge here and maybe bust out a mallet putter or two, like Scotty Scheffler, because apparently it works for him, Scotty, as the old Scheffler back on top. I think, you tell me, I think the PGA Tour kind of needed that. They needed a big one of their stars to actually win the tournament, because we've had how many first-time winners on, you know what I mean, this year? Austin Eckroat. It's like, we got, like, come on. You need your big-name guys to win, and win he did last week, which is good for the PGA.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joe. And not just first-time winners, but how about an amateur winning for the first time in 40 years or whatever? I mean, it's been absolutely all over the map. You know, before Scotty Scheffler won, who was the pre-tournament favorite around 7-1, the shortest priced winner so far this season was Jake Knapp at around 40-1. So, yeah, I agree with you. We needed some star power at the top of the leaderboard, and what a way to finish it off. I mean, my goodness. He gained just a half stroke putting on the field on Friday, and then gained a stroke and a half on the field on Saturday, and then gained almost 4 strokes on the field with the putter on Sunday, and just won in dominant fashion. I was very thankful, and I was able to identify it pretty early. I did not have a great week with all my pre-tournament stuff, won a couple matchups, but missed out on some top 20s. But I was able to get down on Scotty pretty early in that round on Sunday. I actually laid minus 400 and laid a big bet. I think he was there after about 4 holes.
Yep.
But I felt pretty good about 10 holes later when he was minus 5,000 and they took him off the board because it was a foregone conclusion. So made a little money back there. But yeah, no, it's good to see Scotty back in the swing of things. And, you know, I wrote for the tour, I said, if this guy continues his hot putting at the Players' Championship, who's going to beat him? And I said, I don't have an answer. And, you know, I mean, history is going against him here. There's never been a defending champ that has defended his title. No back-to-back winners here at TPC Sawgrass. And not only that, that defending champ hasn't done too well the following year either. I don't think they've even finished in the top 20 in defending their title. But, you know, this is a little bit of a different animal here. You know, his ball striking is Tiger-esque, and his putting last week was like Brad Faxon. So, you know, if he has that combination going again, he's going to be pretty tough to beat.
Well, you know, you mentioned it here. The chalkiness is absurd here with Scotty Scheffler. Again, defending champ. Like you said, history is not there. We also talked, I believe, on Sunday on In-Game Live. We were not happy with some of the efforts by some of the guys like, I don't know, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlett.
Boy.
We were going down the list and going, how in the world do we look to trust these guys at the Players? The one guy that did show up was Justin Thomas here. And, of course, Willie Z. So a handful of guys look to be in good form. How many of them do you trust, though, in this tournament?
I like Willie Z and JT. I expect them both to play well. I know a lot of sharp guys that are on both of those guys to win this week. I'm kind of hoping it's not Thomas because I want him to peak at Augusta. I've got a ticket on him in a few weeks at the Masters, and that's when I'm hoping he really finds his apex. But no, he's as hot as it gets right now. He's obviously won here before. He was 12th last week at Bay Hill, 12th at Phoenix. And then Willie Z, I mean, runner up at the Genesis and basically runner up. I think he finished third or fourth at Bay Hill, but played really, really well. He had one of the cleaner 4 days of anybody in that field. He just had that bad stretch on Saturday. I had an in-game ticket on him too at 12-1, and I was looking great there through about 13 holes on Saturday when he got it to 11 under, and then he went 4 over in his last 5 holes and wasn't able. Nobody was going to catch Scotty on Sunday. He shot the low round of the day, 66, on a day that only 4 people shot in the 60s. So, yeah, not only was that good for the tour, Joe, but it was pretty cool to see how dominant that performance was on Sunday too. But Hovland and Cantlay, you and I talked about it. He's really more of a California guy. Never been really, never fancied the Florida swing too much. But Hovland apparently. He's out there on the range working with all kinds of coaches more than he ever has. He's really – and let me tell you, if you're trying to find the game on the practice tee at TPC Sawgrass, good luck, buddy.
You are you're in trouble, to say the least there. You mentioned Cantlay. We also, Schauffele, I think they both finished top 5 a year ago. They do like this course. I mean, this is about as chalky as it gets here this week, beginning with Scheffler and going on down. Taking him out of the picture, give me a few names and a few prices here that we're looking at.
Well, I did land on Xander Schauffele. That's the shortest player I took. And you're mixing up his years here. He finished runner-up in his debut.
Oh, we're going to...
Last year, he was 19th, which is very respectable. And, I'll take that. And, there's a trend out there that course history really doesn't matter here. You know this, Joe. You look at the list of champions at the Players' Championship, they've also missed the cut a handful of times. There's no real consistency here. It's a very random tournament. Results are quite volatile. But one thing we have seen that matters is current form. I mentioned there's a trend out there. 11 of the last 12 winners of the Players' Championship have come into this week off of a finish that was no worse than 22nd. Justin Thomas was that guy in 2021 that came in off of a 22nd place finish. Everyone else basically has been better than that. So I looked hard at current form. Now, Xander Schauffele finished 25th last week, relatively pedestrian, but this season, in a short season so far, he's already got 4 top 10 finishes. And he may be the very best this week on the correlated courses. He's done incredibly well at East Lake, where the Tour Championship is held. That course ties into success here at Sawgrass. He's won at TPC River Highlands, another Pete Dye design. So good current form, good history here, and really good history on the correlated courses. I landed on Xander at 25-1. I played Max Homa at 33, got a good number on him as well. Homa comes off of an 8th place finish last week at Bay Hill. I think you and I were talking about him as well. He played really well. His short game was stellar last week. And oh, by the way, the last 36 rounds, this guy ranks 20th in this field for strokes gained off the tee. So he can get it done off the tee, and the short game is popping right now. I'm hoping that he has a good finish in store. He's finished 13th and 6th here at the Players before. And then I went down to 40-1 on Russell Henley. Had a great week last week at the Arnold Palmer. Had a 4th place finish there and was 2nd in the field for strokes gained putting. He at one point was 48 for 48 on putts inside of 10 feet. I hope that continues this week. Joe, the focus this week, I think we throw out course history. We talked about that. We've seen bombers win here. We've seen short hitters here win here. I think driving accuracy trumps driving distance a little bit. Strokes gained approach is huge. You got to be great with the irons. And then I think it's the short game. So I looked at short game, approach, and current form. Russell Henley has all of that, and so does my next guy, Shane Lowry, at 42-1. Comes off of a third-place finish at Bay Hill, a fourth-place finish at the Cognizant, plays tough golf courses really well. And this is an interesting one. Over the last 36 rounds, he is fourth in this field for strokes gained tee to green on Pete Dye designed courses. Of course, what we have here this week. And you'll remember it wasn't that long ago, a difficult Dye design for the PGA Championship when Mickelson won at Kiowa Island. Shane Lowry was fourth that week. So I think the hot play continues for Lowry, and he's got a good finish in him again. He's finished top 10 here twice. Those were the shortest shots I took. Everybody else is near triple digits. And Joe, just to add on to that, because this tournament is so volatile and course history is basically non-existent, I think you really have to have a diverse card this week. You know, different types of players, different types of odds. I think you have to mix it up a little and hope you land on one.
It was funny because I'm going over the list here. Did I miss Rory McIlroy out of your mouth? I'm sorry. Did you say Rory?
Is he here this week?
Oh, no. Is he even play golf still? Oh, how does this work here?
Well, I'll tell you what. Rory did make my card this week, but on the negative end. Now, Rory has played in 4 tournaments in 2024, and he has not finished better than 21st. Of course, he's a former winner here, and I know one sharp bettor that likes him this week and got him at a good price at 16-1. But I actually went against Rory. I took him in a head-to-head matchup with Xander Schauffele, and Schauffele's actually the slight favorite, minus 115 over Rory. I took another head-to-head on Byung Hoon An at plus 125 over Corey Connors.
Love it. Yes, he's a fade for me as well there, Brady, until further notice. Can't trust him here at this, especially with how good everybody else is playing. So, Brady Cannon, cash those tickets on those cards here this week. We'll talk to you again. We got Game Time Decisions returning here after this.
I think Boston's going to the NBA Finals, and at this point, I'm still willing to say this early that they're the best team in the NBA, even better, in my view, than the Nuggets.
Barkley, for me, I say the front runners would be the Dallas Cowboys and or the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think Jerry might get in on this and say just make it happen and get Saquon on our football team.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Maybe not a match that we thought would be the most enticing 6 months ago, but Newcastle, they are kind of on the ropes. They looked awful against Blackburn in the FA Cup.
Lamine Yamal's been the stand-up player, you know, a guy that's 16 years old, a guy that was drafted in from La Masia, from the academy. It says a lot, really. It says a lot about the really poor standard of the rest of the players this season.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca, only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The Fan. Man, staying alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network, and we've got plenty going on across the board here on the hardwood as the NBA already off and running. Got a couple of games getting ready to show up here in just a minute, and we've got our good friend Scotty Wetzel, who is ready to roll here tonight, taking over at the top of the hour, and Mr. Opposite Picks. We got a couple of games getting ready to tip off here, namely one down the road from me here as the Miami Heat are looking to finally, maybe, can they beat the Denver Nuggets here tonight? Or is it just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Scotty?
Yeah, I think if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Denver, coming down this home stretch here, Joe, they clearly have the number one seed in the West on their mind, playing decent ball. Miami just seemingly is just waiting for the postseason to get here, right? They're going to get in. They'll be a top 6 seed, I would think. No worries about that. So Denver's 5-0 straight up against the spread. Last 5 against Miami, so they've owned this series of late. Nuggets 7-3 against the spread. Their last 10 overall. You're laying, basically a field goal here, 3.5. Maybe we want to buy the hook down to 3. But, basically, if you don't think Miami's going to win, then you can't bet them, and I don't think they're going to win. So I'll lay the 3.5. That's a small number. I think Denver gets the road win. They perform well. This is one of those kind of tests. Denver does poo-poo things every once in a while, but Miami's a pretty good team. I think they're going to get up for the game. And if you get up for the game with Denver, chances are you're going to win the game.
We got coming up also 8 o'clock Eastern time, Scotty, right in about 15, 20 minutes with the Hornets and the Grizzlies. Listen, the Grizz held, serve against Washington, who's a terrible team at home the other night. And now they've got another terrible team coming in here tonight in Charlotte. So what gives?
Yeah, this is one of those games, Joe. We got 4 hockey games going on. We got tennis going on. We got golf tomorrow. We got all the NCAA baskets. We got a good slate of NBA. Why bother playing Memphis versus Charlotte, right? But, I'm a big believer. If they play it, then so should we. Who are the Charlotte Hornets? I mean, they have the 4th worst record, and that's a key. I'll get to it in a second. They have the 4th worst record in the NBA. I mean, who are they to be road favorites over anybody? I wouldn't have them road favorites over Topeka High. You know what? I'll grab the Memphis Grizz. Why not? Hornets 9-20 against the spread their last 29 road games, and now you're going to make them a favorite? Really? And the other thing is, a little conspiracy cap here, Joe. They are the 4th worst team. And we all know in the NBA, you got to be the top 3 worst teams to guarantee yourself those ping pong balls to get the number 1 selection or the best chances. All right? So it's important to be 3 or worse. So they don't want to do anything crazy and win. They have a 2-game They got to make up 2 games in the loss column, if you will, going in reverse with San Antonio. San Antonio's got 2 more losses. So they can't do anything stupid and start winning some of these games. So throw that all together. Give me Memphis at home. I'd even play them on the money line, to tell you the truth. But for our purposes here, we'll say grab the 2.5.
All right, well, look at you. All right, so we've got another game coming up next hour. And I just want, okay, so in fact, he has been ruled out. So Dallas and Golden State on the road taking on the Mavs. Draymond Green has just been ruled out. So him and Steph Curry out tonight. I'm seeing the number up to 8.5 here, Scotty, maybe even a 9 or 2. Does it make a difference to you one way or the other with how you were playing this game?
It doesn't. I mean, listen, I wish Draymond was in there. I'll admit that. But this is really kind of an anti-Dallas play as much as it is a pro-Golden State play. This is kind of like Golden State the other day. They lost the home game to San Antonio, right? And it was a home-and-home series. And it was like, there's no way in the world they were losing to San Antonio twice. I don't care if you and I are playing for Golden State. It's not happening, right? And they end up winning easily. So same thing here. You want to give me 8.5 points? Dallas, they're a mediocre team at home. Only 19 and 15 straight up in an NBA world. That's mediocre. 15 and 19 against the spread, as a matter of fact, as well. Warriors 13 and 5 against the spread. Their last 18 games overall. You want to give me 9.5? Maybe wait. Maybe it'll get up to 10. I'll take 10 points with Golden State. Dallas has not shown the ability, Joe, to blow these teams out at home. They play much better on the road. It's very weird. But you want to give me almost 10 points, albeit with a wounded Golden State team? I'll take a shot at it.
All right, listen, you've got a interesting one late night here, too, as well. Sacramento at home, second of a back-to-back, taking on the Lakers, who actually have a couple of days rest. I think LeBron's been able to get a nap or 2 in since the last time he's played. That's got to be good news. The market loves the Lakers. I mean, this was, -1? Now I'm seeing 3s. That worries me here, how much the market loves the Lakers in this spot.
Unless they just think they're due, they've shown no ability, Joe, to beat this Sacramento team. They're 1-7, so obviously Sacramento 7-1 straight up and against the spread, and that includes a 10-point win last week in Los Angeles. So it's not a fluke that they've dominated this series over the last several years. Lakers, here's one for you. 0-8 against the spread as road favorites, between 0 and 4.5 points as they are tonight. So it shows that when they're road favorites, they're supposed to win. They don't. So I don't know why now they're facing a team that they can't beat. That's, trying to get every win possible. It's not like they're playing a team that doesn't have anything to play for. I know Sacramento can be up and down, and I know it's the Lakers, and I know the Lakers are playing better. You're right, Joe. They love L.A., but you know what? Until they beat the young, Kings, I'm taking Sacramento at home, grabbing 3.5, 3.5, whatever it ends up falling on.
I mean, Scotty, I think you nailed it. 6-1 against the Lakers here over the last couple of seasons. I mean, Sacramento, for whatever reason, just handles their business against the Lakers here. So that one will be the late night. We do have in college hoops a couple of games getting ready to tip off here. Big East action right in your neck of the woods there, Scotty. Are you laying the 17 touchdowns that Villanova is laying here tonight against? Does DePaul even still play basketball, Scotty?
Barely, if you call it that. This is going to be a classic opposite pick, Joe. I mean, there's nothing I could find.
Yep.
I checked every website in the world to get a positive DePaul trend. I couldn't find any. I really couldn't. Villanova 24-1 against DePaul straight up, 6-1 against the spread last 7 against DePaul, and a bunch of those were big-time numbers. The over is 17-7 against Villanova for DePaul, so it's a high-scoring affair, which means it's a lot easier to cover the number when you're laying 24.5. So, you know what? Despite it all, give me DePaul plus the 24.5. Why not? Just do one last go-around, win one for the Gipper. You got an interim head coach. The season's over after tonight, when they lose, and they no doubt will lose. But maybe, just maybe, with playing all these games back to back to back, you got to have a reason to beat the snot out of a team in a postseason tournament by 25 points, right? Knowing that your kids are going to come back the very next day and have to play a much better game.
Yep.
So you pull off I don't think there is a reason to win by 25 for Villanova. Maybe by 15, 20, okay. But give me it pains me to say it, but give me DePaul plus 24.5. Your local will be smiling when you tell them that.
Well, there's no better time to start a trend than right now there, Scotty, if you're DePaul here.
Exactly.
And you're right, Nova's going to have another game tomorrow, so you might as well save some of those buckets here. Talk to me about, you and I have covered this team over the last couple of Sundays here, but Michigan, this could be the farewell tour here as well, taking on Penn State tonight in the Big Ten Conference. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this Michigan team has been awful, right, Joe? I mean, to close out this season, one loss, one worse after another, home, on the road, doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to lay the 6.5 with Penn State and take my chances they win. 6-1 against the spread, last 7 against the Wolverines. Over is 20-7, last 27 games for Penn State. That's important, again, because when you play high-scoring games, it's a little bit easier to cover these decent numbers as this is at 6.5. Wolverines, get a load of this. 5-23, Joe, against the spread. Not straight up, and they're probably even worse than that straight up. 5-23 against the spread their last 28 games. Yeah, you just can't put American money on Michigan, at least not in basket. So give me Penn State laying the 6.5, and they get a nice 7-point or plus win.
Oh, kind of like the way you're rolling with that one. How about a little SEC action here? Are you a believer in Georgia taking on Missouri? Talk about a rough season for Missouri. My goodness here. Who are you leaning towards in this one?
This has got rat-you-know-what written all over it, Joe, right? I mean, Missouri is 0-18 in conference play. 0-18, including one double-digit home loss to the same Georgia club. So why is Georgia only now a 2.5-point favorite? They were 3.5. I mean, who's going to the window saying, give me 0-18 Missouri, thinking you're probably going to have to win the basketball game? I mean, they're awful. Yep. 9-23 against the spread that they haven't even been competitive. They're getting blown out. I don't know. I'll take the don't look the gift horse in the mouth. You want to give me a team, basically pick them against an 0-18 club? Give me Georgia minus the 2.5, right?
I am 100% with you here. And, of course, finally, Scotty, the entire world is fading Kansas. Is that a good idea or is that a bad idea?
Generally speaking, that's a bad idea, right? I mean, I'd much rather be on the side of the boys in Vegas than the side of the public. And I initially was going to go Kansas, Joe. I was, just because of that. And then you start to think, and then you look at their scores. They only have 3 guys that average double figures, 3. So they're going to miss the top 2. Not only 2, the top 2, as they sit these guys with minor injuries. So they only got 1 guy that averages double figures. They only have 5 that average 5 points or more. 5 points. Kansas we're talking about here, right? I mean, you only got 5 guys that average 5 points, and now you're going to take the top 2 again away? Cincinnati's not great, Joe, but I don't know how you can make a case for Kansas. I mean, I know it's Kansas, and these guys on the bench are going to be good. These aren't, they're not going to be scrub players, but I just don't see the scoring at a Kansas. And 138.5, I'd probably go the under as well. A Cincinnati and under parlay, but I'm going to go with the public. Give me Cincinnati laying the 2.5 on this one.
All right, he's back in the public across the board here. Some great games over the next couple of days here, and it should be a lot of fun here tonight, Scott. You'll have plenty of opportunities here on In-Game Live coming up. You got NBA, you got college. Did you have anything on the ice tonight you were looking at?
Yeah, I like the St. Louis Blues at home, plus 135 against the LA Kings. The Kings, kind of like Dallas Mavericks. They play much better on the road, I'll admit that, but St. Louis just beat the Bruins the other day, fighting for a playoff spot. You want to give me plus 130, 128 you see now maybe on FanDuel? I'll grab St. Louis at home, going up against a mediocre LA Kings team. Why not?
Don't blame you at all there. Plenty going on. Just 4 games on the ice, but the NBA action is off and running. Plenty of games coming up. Top of the hour, Scotty Wetzel, in-game live. Prime time, we'll have you covered. And, of course, this weekend on Sunday, we're looking forward to figuring out who's in and who's out of March Madness. Scotty, enjoy the night. We'll close it out. Game Time Decisions next here on the Grid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here at a minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, there you go. Game Time Decisions as we wrap up this edition. Again, want to remind you, coming up in-game live prime time here on the SportsGrid Network. Plenty going on across the sports betting landscape here. Plenty of NBA action, games already underway. Nets Magic. The Nets having a hard time figuring out how to shoot the ball. Absolutely 2 of 13 from 3 to open a game. And the Magic are on top by 16 here, 56-40, about 4 minutes ago in the first half. You've got the Raptors also handing the Pistons a bit of an issue, 55-44 in that one. About 2 minutes ago in the half there. Pacers down 4 to the Bulls here early on there, about 3 minutes in the first. And the Nuggets have just taken it to the Heat right off the bat. 21-11 is what they're looking at. In-game number, by the way, Heat plus 6.5 right now. They were getting 4.5, and they're down 10. So good luck to the Miami Heat there on that one here tonight. And in college hoops, we've got Lehigh and Colgate. Well, we've got Colgate playing, and Lehigh is getting beat 45-26 there at the break for the Patriot League Championship. Opportunity to punch their ticket in that one. And don't forget ACC battle right now, Syracuse and NC State. This is a new era for Syracuse. Can they handle business against NC State here? Well, they're down 3 at the break, 35-22. You also have Vanderbilt smacking Arkansas in the SEC. Keep an eye on that one for good old Coach Musselman there. And Duquesne, the Dukes, out in front of the Billikens of St. Louis there in the Atlantic 10, 19-11. And again, Scotty Wetzel and company will have all of the updates on these games, give you all the current numbers. Game Time Decisions will return tomorrow night. Until then, best of luck with your plays. We'll talk to you again soon.